Hey, good evening, everybody. How are we all going tonight? Byron, Barry, Miles, Jim. Good to see you, Jim. Yeah, ITC's here as well. Haven't seen you for a couple of days. Kenny, Mladen, Royal, Glasgow. Hello. Alien Repairs, James. Well, how on earth do you pronounce that? Wisnaski. Nope, that's messed up. Oh well. Hey, Jose. Hey, Greg, Terry. Everybody's turned up all at once, thank goodness. And 10-minute tech. Oops, 2 more screws to go. Alright, so we've got a 1398 here that was having its keyboard cleaned, and then things went horribly wrong. And then apparently they went even more wrong. So I'm not sure whether we're just going to be dealing with a keyboard replacement or something more dramatic. Barry, renovations, yeah. The problem is getting the builders to actually do the work. They're in such great demand that it's very hard to get them to, get them around to do the stuff. Rodrigo, you're getting vaccinated. Cool. Which one are you getting? The Pfizer or Astra? Or there's so many options. It's getting a little bit out of hand here in Australia. A lot more people catching it again. Arnold G, Steve, Steve B, Gabrielle, hello. Alright, we'll just put the sticker on here, make sure we don't lose the important data. It would be ideal if people had everything backed up, but it never really works out that way. That's just not that's just not reality. 1398 batch has been bending in our ANL. Well, you mean getting the connector off? They are a bit like that. So we've disconnected the daughter board and we've disconnected the battery, trackpad, and keyboard, and I just want to see what our power consumption is. Okay, it's 18 volts. Okay, we get a green light, we get a fan spin, 1.3 amps. It actually looks pretty normal. Nothing's new about the house yet, sorry to say. Oh, Riga, okay, so you've got access to the Russian ones as well. Oh. Don't really see any news about that one in our sort of area. Perez and Joseph. Alright, so we actually are apparently booting. So it could be just a case of the keyboards messing everything up. Well, one way to test that out. I can hear all the people already going, no, don't just be the keyboard. We came here to be entertained. I've got other jobs. Okay, that's booting. Current's about right again. Cap lock seems to be permanently on. That's an interesting feature. So yeah, the keyboard's definitely cactus. Just going to see if it actually goes through and still boots, or whether the keyboard is holding it in some kind of reset state. I just noticed the cap locks. Come on. Interesting, it doesn't pick up the USB stick. And that would be because it's not one of my MacBook tester ones, it's something else. Right, that was a bit of a stuff up. It's still not picking it up though. Alright, so something else is going on because it's not picking up my MacBook tester stick. Nah. So this is going to be a slightly hairy one if I'm not careful. Alright, board out time. Yeah, I did see it booted the first time. I just straight away, once I saw that, I changed it out and thought, right, let's try it with the keyboard now. So basically I was sort of incrementally adding items onto the board to see which one is causing the issue. Oh yeah, keyboard's almost guaranteed to be stuffed. I'd definitely say that. Oops, that is not a screw hole pull. And I've been working on an iPhone 5 that spent a couple of weeks in a river, or at least seemed to be. Alas, while I have managed to get it to boot, it goes straight into recovery mode, which is rather unfortunate. And it did let me flash it. Let's see, yeah, let me flash it and then I could put, damn it, a new iOS on there, but as soon as it does that, and it does do that successfully, it goes straight back to being in recovery mode. So either I've got the problem of the battery data wrecked the system, or I've got a problem with the home button line or something like that being pulled low all the time. Not exactly sure which it is, so it's not something I'm going to be working on right now, because working on iPhones, even older ones like the iPhone 5, it is fiddly work, and you want to be making sure you do things right. Miles, have you tried, when you put the USB stick in, have you tried doing a PRAM reset with that USB stick in? Or are you forced to have to hold down the option key every time? Teresa, it's only been a couple of minutes, so YouTube did okay this time. Up here. Look at how long it takes. What is this anyway? This is a 3332 or something? I'm pretty sure it's 3332. So we'll need U8900 done anyway. Oh, okay, you're forced to hold it down. Yeah, that is a shame. There probably is some kind of EFI modification you can do, but it's probably not worth it. So I'm guessing in your case there's something wrong on the PCH or something that's preventing it from running off the SSD. Hey Oscar. I just can't read. Oh wait, no, this is 3.6. Damn it. My balls are too tired to see. I'll know once I get it out. Okay, this is definitely stuck. Hey, Eddie Painter. Scoop Dog and S, welcome. Okay. It's interesting, looking on the bottom here, you can't really see any migration of liquid damage out of the keyboard. Doesn't mean there isn't any, but it might be that this is a coincidental secondary issue compared to the original. Okay. Alright, well, straight up, we've got some corrosion there. That kind of is in the, mind you, that's more the Thunderbolt vicinity, but anyway. I'm just going to load up the board. 3662. Oh wow, someone has been busy with this board on open board data. That's a lot of networks that they've populated. It's not just me. Alright, cool. So just looking for the thingy that's got the corrosion. It's around about here. Let's see, quad display. So we can see just here if there's a resistor and a couple of lines there. So we've got, so looking at 3v3, Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt. Okay, so it really shouldn't be affecting the USB boot. Arnold, we already do capture from meter, but not as a general display facility at this point. The facility requires too much polling, so I prefer not to actually have it as a standard, facility. Yet. Depends on how desperate I get, I suppose. Arnold, I've got the footstep for that. I just put my foot down and it captures it. Well, there's certainly a lot of sand on this board. Something that looks a bit like sand. So USB. Oops. It's the top side again. There's a lot of grit and junk, but I'm not really seeing anything that would inhibit, at least not directly, the USB functionality. And that connector looks pretty damn good. Yeah, Rodrigo, I already do that. What, do people not watch my videos? I've got two options. Instead of actually having a alligator clip, I use either this USB to banana plug, so you just plug your meter into there and put it into the USB port, all works. Or we've got the variation of the chipmunk that Harold sent me, and it's got a banana plug straight in there. So yeah, I already got all those facilities, already use them. Plenty of videos of me doing that already. There's about probably 4 or 5 videos of me capturing the data. Unless people were just talking to other people then and I misinterpreted it as referring to me. Hey, Cyclone. No, Miles. Oh wait, I think I already said hello to Miles. Right, time to get the brush out. Now the other problem that can sometimes plague these kinds of boards are the VRMs wearing out, but that is not the issue we're encountering today. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and fix up that Thunderbolt section. It seems kind of... yeah. And then I'll try to find out what's going on with this USB. Hey, the zombie fuse was something very rare. Yummy Steak, the best trick there is to do your own repairs. And that way you can wash away the junk. Ah, crud. I think the worst thing about when I do iPhone repairs is that I switch the nozzles. At least I remembered this time before I started working on this machine. Because I put the 6mm nozzle on for iPhones, but with the MacBooks I prefer the 9mm. The big question is, does this actually even need to be fixed? Because it's... a bit of corrosion there, but I don't know if it's gone through or not. Saw a bit of blood coming out. I'm just thinking, is there really any point me bringing up that this chip here or not? I suppose we'll have a lift of it and have a look underneath. Yeah, nothing really to write home about. We can just put that straight back on, and like I said, I can't see it actually being responsible for the USB not booting. So I better look around this resistor. Scoop Dog, is it possible to do it yourself a graphics card CPU to socket mod? Oh, I have no idea. I'd say probably not too easily with DIY. The biggest problem with DIYing stuff like that tends to be just trying to get the traces and the impedances and everything correct. So as far as I can tell, yeah. So the resistor in question, yeah, that's a no stuff that was on there. 2867. That's interesting. That actually is listed as a no stuff, but it's definitely there. That's kind of funny. So that is pulling up 3v3 Thunderbolt LC 2862, and that one is listed as being there, but it's not. So this is an interesting case where the board differs from the board view. So it looks like by default they're pulling this line high, which is Thunderbolt ROM security XOR. And so on the schematic they were thinking they were going to be pulling it low, but it looks like they changed their mind. Let's see. The security strap setting is XOR'd with bit in the flash. So active level depends on the code in the flash. So they must have changed the code in the flash. Now I don't know if that security thing has anything at all to do with permitting the USB to be bootable, because I don't imagine so. I know on the recent there's the EFI security, boot prevention, things like that on most new MacBooks, but I don't think this is the same thing. Now, Yummy Steak's losing his head right now because he's looking at this resistor. That looks entirely normal. It's a bit of liquid that pooled around the laser adjustment, the trimming. No dramas. Let's see if we get anything on the chipmunk. Bottom one to the right of the IC is no stuff. Top one is populated. The thing is, when I pulled this one off, the bottom one was populated. The top one was not. Did you remove the resistor that was laying on the board? Yes, I did. Wait, no, I resoldered it, see? Where are we going? See, that is back where it was, I'm pretty sure. Right? Damn it. Let's see, 3662. It's better hope I got a donor. 332, 3662. All hail donors. Assuming they're not smashed. Oh no, it is the top one. Shit. Okay, my bad. Good thing I... Well, looks like Paul was just asleep at the wheel. So the schematics weren't wrong, Paul was. That would have been funny. Half the trouble here is that it's not unusual to have the board view and the schematic disagree on some things. Hey, I am 6 Skills. Anyway, you all had your laugh there now. So we got power there. I'm seeing if we get a green blink or not. Yeah, we do. So we've got power and data, so I'm not sure why that didn't boot the USB. I'll put it back in just in case I miss something. Because normally what will happen is when it does get to the state where it's showing the blinking folder, typically you should be able to plug in a bootable device like USB stick or something like that, and it will boot from that. So even if you don't have access to the keyboard, it will eventually still hunt over for potentially bootable devices, and it should pick up things like that USB stick. Ah, damn it, I snared the backlight. Well, the thing is, I tested it without the keyboard being connected. That was the problem. As in, that's what made me wonder what was going on. Because with the keyboard disconnected, it should, by default, fall through. Yeah, we'll just wait for this to boot now. Why the heck is Joseph King not a mod? Oh, he is. No, wait, he is. I'm just blind. Yep, it's one of those nights I'm blind. It's like I've got I had a software bug in Flexboard View that was just driving me insane, and I still don't... Okay, we are booting. It just must have been a bad thing. Alright, in that case, I think we've just got a bad keyboard on this machine, which is a bit of a pain. I wonder if I can do this without taking the battery out. It's pretty... I can't remember if this one will let me do that or not. I'm not likely to dox my customer when I'm booting from my own USB stick. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, I've had this bug where essentially what was happening is in Flexboard View, in order to try and save time, I can, let's see, because I have to compute, let's see, okay, so that's my own data anyway. I have to compute where to put these pretty little background rectangles and the text and everything like that. And that changes every time you shift the display around and change the zoom. but you can cache certain aspects of the process. Like if you don't change your zoom, then you know that the size of the text, regardless of where you have panned it to, is going to stay the same. So I had a little flag that was simply saying if the zoom had changed within the process of the last time or the last frame that had been written, drawn to screen. And for the life of me, I could not work out what was going on. I would start out at the top of the function, and it was like the frame has changed, the scale has changed, so you need to recompute. And I'd get down to the point where it would be time to recompute the size of the text and henceforth the background rectangle. And the flag would all of a sudden be saying, no, the scale hasn't changed. And that was very infuriating because there was nowhere in the code between this top and where the recompute could happen, where the variable, the flag holding whether it had changed or not, would actually be assigned anything. It was entirely a read-only type flag, even to the point where I would... Now, I know sometimes you can have a single equals instead of a double equals, but then if you have just a bracket around the boolean, then it implies if true, and so that would avoid that particular issue. And yeah, I peppered that code with printf statements and everything, trying to find out what the heck was going on. The best I could understand was that there were multiple loops going on, and I was not getting to the point where it would be needing to compute the rectangle size until the next frame had come around, and by that point the scale had not changed relative to the previous frame, so it wouldn't bother computing it. Needless to say, I shuffled some code around trying to push some variables out of the way, some possible, how could you say, yeah, I was trying to simplify things as much, and all of a sudden the code starts working, so it's like, who knows what went wrong there. It's fixed, but I'm just a little bit concerned about that. Okay. Unfortunately, coding is often full of moments like that, where you sit there and you go, I don't know why my code isn't working, and then something happens, and then you sit there and you go, I don't know why my code is working. So yes, lots of joy. Oops, throw that around. Alright, let's get this out of here. Looks like we're going to have to be doing a keyboard replace. Gee, I hope I've got stock of these ones. It's going to suck if I don't have stock because it's Friday tomorrow, which means I won't get stock until Monday. That's going to be a long weekend to wait. Yeah, Eric, exactly. Yeah, that's the concern part in my head. It's one of those things of like, you don't really know why that worked or didn't work, and so therefore I'm going to come back and haunt you when you least expect it. And it'll probably be at some far off part of the code that seems like it has no relationship whatsoever with what you've just been working on. But well, it's the nature of programming, isn't it? It has a quantum component to it. It does seem to, indeed. You look at it and it changes. But overall, the development's going quite well. I'm a little bit concerned about just how many damned features are in it now. Like, if for all of just simply this... let's see, let's go to some area where... Let's go maximize, please. Danke. Yeah, for all of the open board data and the networks and stuff like that, just in those three pieces of information, I've got all of these damn parameters. So like you got things like, the threshold of the size of the pin before you'd bother displaying the data, because obviously there's not much point trying to display the data if your pin's too small, and then do you want smaller fonts for the open board data and the network name, things like that. Like if I change this to -2, so it'd be 2 steps below the main font, and then the colors, of course, and then this is a really naughty option here, this background corner radius. I mean, I don't know why I've put that in there. I think that adds about 2 or 3% of my CPU consumption. It's not a good thing, and all just because you don't want to have a little jagged edge here. You just want to have a nice soft roundness. But yeah, the things that you put function, what do you call it? See, like this here. See, this is just, you got to zoom in a bit too far before those network names stop obstructing each other. And then someone in the audience is going to say, "Why don't you just make them so they're, you know, vertically offset slightly?" And it's a good idea, but the trick is actually coming up with the algorithm on how to decide when to vertically offset or not. And then the audience member goes, "Well, why don't you just see if you've got a collision with a neighboring network?" And it's like, well, you know, that's very smart. But the trouble is, then your CPU consumption goes absolutely ballistic, because unfortunately, while we can visually process these images very quickly with our human brain, very parallel type scenario, the computer, it only is just like looking at this one little box, and it has to go along and it has to check all the other pins and say, "Is your box bumping into me? No? Okay, I'll go to the next fella. Is your box bumping into me? No? Okay." And it's got to do that for like 5,000 odd pins. There are ways you can constrain that, but ultimately you pretty much do go through about 5,000 or however many pins there are, just to find out if you can put your box there. Audience member then says, "Well, why don't you cache that information?" And it's like, yep, again, that is good. But then you will then also have to do it for when you rotate, because then everything changes again. Like for instance, so let's go for iPhone 6, because it's a pretty good example of how things can get really ugly. Okay, so this isn't too bad. You can sort of work out what's going on. Not really. Settings, program preferences, show only if selected. Okay, alright, so we select that and the stuff comes up, and you know that's readable. But then if you rotate and you find that again, all of a sudden all your data's smashing into it. Yeah, so there are a lot of subtle issues that arise from seemingly simple solutions, and you have to work them all out. Yeah, Pianov, that is no fun when that sort of stuff happens. And because if you've been coding for a while, you do tend to, by default, you no longer start blaming the compiler by default. You start realizing, no, I am a coder, I am human. It's most likely that I've done something wrong here. And so you spend a long time looking for the fault in your own code that doesn't actually exist. It's just a torturous bastard of a thing that you got to go through. I suppose that's where it's handy if you have multiple machines with multiple different compilers or different versions. Yeah, I would not. No, you're gonna have to take the battery out for this one, because, well, yeah, you really have to, because you've got the trackpad flex here, and even though you can sort of lift it up, you can't get access to the rivets properly. Now the battery's got to come out on these ones, at least for me. You might be, and probably are, a superior repair person, and you can do it without taking the battery out, but this one for me is a battery out situation. Otherwise, more than likely, Murphy will come along and say, "Hey, I see you're changing the keyboard without replacing the battery. Do you mind if I help stuff it up for you?" Ignore compiler warnings. Yeah, that's the other thing. Compiler warnings seem like they're annoying at first, but after a while you do come to appreciate the beauty of a no warning build. Alright. Fortunately, at least battery removals aren't as terrifying as they used to be. I mean, this, you still would prefer not to have to do them, but it's not the worst thing in the world for me. I do want to get some paper towel though. Turn off. I guess if that's in those sort of scenarios, maybe it's in the intermediate code that the bug is. Either way, it's rare enough that you don't, after a while, you don't believe that it's the compiler at fault, but it's often enough that, yeah, you do occasionally get caught out like that and drive yourself insane for a few days. So I don't know what was causing this particular issue where the Boolean flag was just being nuked. Yeah, it was being flipped back without me understanding why. I would sooner say it's because of my lack of understanding of the code of which I was working on, even though I wrote it. Just because you write code doesn't mean you understand code. In fact, more likely that you don't. Writing code has nothing to do with understanding it. Oh, writing your own compiler, yeah, that's no fun. I did have a couple of courses, I think it was in second or third year university, where it was, yeah, creating your own compilers. Very interesting topic, but it didn't really have quite that passion drive for me, so I didn't end up taking it further into third year. When I got to fourth year, I was more interested in graphic systems, renderings, things like that. The math of rendering, you know, when I say graphic system, yeah, the math of working out or creating realistic imagery. Mind you, this it's not much of a standard to hold, considering that we're talking early mid-90s, so you know, probably the best you had around that time would have been what was it, The Last Starfighter. That was probably about the best sort of graphics you had around then. There's the SDL. Oh, geez, don't mention the 2014. Yeah, that, I can't believe I got caught on that bug, Pelnoff, because I know you had mentioned it, and I just still went along and happily used 2014. Interestingly, it doesn't seem to give me any grief on the Mac OS. But yeah, it's confusing as heck, that bug, because of the warnings it gives you, and you're like, what is going, or the errors. And so you go start chasing in your CMake code and start going, did I include things in the wrong order? What's going on? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, that's... Have they got 2015 out or something yet to fix that? Or they don't care at the moment? Because this is a good battery, I'm just taking my time and not being overly aggressive with the extraction. Yeah, just put a little bit of alcohol on the spudger. Let it do its magic. There we go. Wiggle it back and forth. And there we go. You're not drowning it with alcohol, you're just giving it enough to lubricate its way through the tape. This is actually taking me a lot longer than normal. I blame the fact that I'm talking to people. Sadly, piano, that makes two of us. You do get to the point where you just sort of like, I'm going to leave that to someone else. Particularly once you've worked around it. That's the trouble. So once you've come up with a solution to get back to your normal work, it's like, someone else will deal. Some other person can do the right thing. By the way, if you do battery extractions or whatever, and you still have the screen attached like this, then don't go pouring alcohol over it. Like I was just wetting the edge of the spudger. Don't go pouring alcohol in there to try and soften it up, because it will wick through and you will cry. You have been warned. So we're talking about BF. I won't say the proper name because obviously, as you can imagine, YouTube will be on me like a rampant. Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to say what. But they will make me regret saying the name of that programming language. What's this, Barry? You're sitting, splitting Tim between you and one of my... What? I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying. Oh, time. Oh, is Tim Herman streaming at the moment, is he? Selfish little SOB. You should know better than to be streaming at this time of the day. I'll have to have words with him later. I saw he has done a nice, what do you call it, reception area for his customers. And he's got a couple of plants there, and just really nice stuff. Personally, I think it's a terrible idea, though. It's like it makes it comfy for them. And they're going to sit around and go, oh, we'll wait for you to change that keyboard for us. Yeah, it's okay. Comfy chair. Can you get us a cup of coffee? Yeah, all good, mate. So Tim's going to regret that. Now, I actually respect Pianov more, again, because of the fact that he doesn't bother to submit that bug issue. Because it's realistic in many ways. It'd be nice for people to report bugs, but the trouble is with a lot of those sort of places, the amount of work you have to put in to producing a valid bug report that they will act on, particularly if you're a developer, and because remember we are dealing with a library, SDL2, which means they're going to know you're a developer, which means they're going to hold you to a certain standard, and they may like, we need you to produce a minimal example demonstrating the issue for us, and they're going to get really picky about accepting that bug report. You're going to fight for a long time just to prove it exists. And that's pretty much the big turn-off. Whereas when you've got consumer software, you're dealing with the user versus the developer. It's not quite so bad in that respect, because you as the developer, you listen to what the user's saying and you kind of go, right, they're full of crap and it's their fault. You know, like when Lewis complains and I just go, hey, he's full of crap, it's his own fault. But that aside, you can at least, like, the customer just has to say, this is what's happening wrong for me, and you can go, all right, fine, and you can take it from there. So you as the writer don't force your customer to have to go through too many hoops. But when you're a developer and you're trying to convince other developers that there's something wrong with the library, geez, it's like pulling teeth. It's just not worth it. So you just have to hope and pray that there's someone that is in the development team that gets hit with that bug and they themselves sort it out. And they're like, oh yeah, no, we knew it was there all along. Yeah, it's all good, mate. It's not coming up quite as quickly as I normally envisage. Since the keyboard's already botched, you just drop a little bit of alcohol. Okay, we've got I can see all the liquid in there too. I am being a little bit slow and pedantic with this particular layer because it is the backlight layer for the keyboard, and of course you can reuse it. So okay, maximum air, drop it to about 200. As you can tell, it can't be that hot because I'm getting my hand in amongst it all. Snagging. At least the latent heat lets me get away with things. Oh yeah, you can see the corrosion coming through there. You can buy replacements for these. It's not a drama if you do destroy it, but it's nice if you don't. Yes, just save yourself a bit of time and money. Yeah. Fairly sure it should work. We'll find out later. Derek, the problem I find with the heavier gloves, the heat resistant type ones, is that I lose a lot of dexterity. I do have tough gloves, and they are probably like 50% thicker than these ones. But honestly, I just don't really. Uh, I used to use them originally when I first started using gloves because they were just available down at Woolworths. But I found that I much prefer the lighter nitrile, the even lighter ones, because the other ones were nitrile, they're just thicker. Yeah, I think I pretty much buggered that little piece of tape. Whoops. Alrighty, so we've got two. This is the other thing. So you got the two screws down here. So you really do need to get the battery out in order to get them. Even if you don't reuse those screws, the act of trying to dislodge them would cause a fair bit of deforming. Whoa, sweet mother of God. Okay, huh. Someone just paid me $5,500. That's nice. I think it must be the tax man. Either that or it's a mistake, and I'm gonna get a call from the bank in the morning say, Mr. Daniels, we've inadvertently transferred a small amount of money into your account. We would kind of like that back, so please don't go spending it. I would say it's probably tax. Unfortunately, that money pretty much straight away is already allocated. It's just the way it goes. Okay, just see if there's any more screws. Nope. Okay. Trouble is, Greg, when you do inadvertently spend that money, you get penalised so heavily. It's just not worth it. Okay, I'm putting the paper towel down because as I rip this out, I don't want it scratching up the back, the screen. So yeah, we've got carbonized corrosion up here and everything. So yeah, the keyboard's cactus, mate. Cactus. I think I've been watching too many Aussie Man reviews or whatever it is lately. So we're just going to get the first couple out, and the rest should follow. Mother frickin' heck, that actually hurt. Good thing it didn't penetrate the glove. Yeah, I think that might be a case of, you know, those injuries where you're wearing jeans or something like that, and it doesn't break the jeans, but it definitely breaks your skin. Yeah, it did. I can see I'm bleeding under there. Oh well. Eddie Painter knows it. Here's my face, you beautiful bastards. Yeah. He seems to be a pretty decent bloke. Who knows whether that's real or not, but so far as YouTube personalities go, there's certainly worse. Let's see, can we get away with the push through? Come on. Just got to get one of them to pop. I'm probably risking my good spudger there. Oh, 2x2 Hands of Blue. Shame about Firefly getting cancelled. Then again, in retrospect, I can't believe that they killed Wash. I mean, that was a pretty low blow. It's like, I know they were going for a little bit of drama there and stuff, but that was just like, that wasn't needed. Didn't need that. No siree. That was just cheap. Yeah. Do it this way. Yep, here we go. Here comes the fun. It won't be slow like this for too long. Killing off Wash, really. What a load of crap that was. Some people can manage to, some really muscular people can manage to, okay, you get snared under there, rip these things off in one fell blow. Well, I'm not a muscular person as such, so it's going to be the slow, creepy style. And rivets to the face, mate. Okay. So be careful around here. It's a tricky area, that. By the way, for all those panicking, if something happens to this screen because of my stupidity, that's fine. I do have replacements. These are admittingly very expensive screens. Fortunately, all very beautiful still. A little bit of fresh layer in there now that the rivets have been popped, and we commence the joyous process of actually ripping out the rivets that remained, which in this one probably looks like about 80% of them. Crap. It looks like for the most part these ones just simply ring pulled the top. Now I know people will say, put tape on it. No, well, the rivets won't go around. Really, I can't stand putting the tape on these things. So it takes me just not that much longer to simply rip it out and clean it up. There we go. Ah, we got the gaming dudes now. Always the gaming dudes. Alright, so yeah, around about 80% of those rivets left didn't come out. That's fine. Okay, I could microscope time. The alloy feels a little bit different to what the 1466s and 1502s have, but we'll see. So normally I just go for a little bit of a crush, a twist, and shoot. No, lost the confidence, Paul. Oh dear, not good, mate. Oh dear. Yep, oh, that's a drill out. Haha, crap. Yeah. But yeah, usually it's crush a bit, twist, pop. There you go. See, that's how it should happen. Crush, twist, pop. Easy pie. These ones are a pain in the backside trying to get the edges though. Aha, boom boom. People playing puns already on my work. Up. Okay. Bit of a momentary panic then. That's interesting. That one's shit. Oh, that was probably the corner one I originally attacked in order to get things rolling. Okay. It is beautiful when you get some keyboard extractions that result in no rivets being left behind. It's just one of those rare moments of tranquility in life with MacBook repair. You have to sit back and appreciate what you have experienced at that time. Put some safety glasses on the scope. Oh, right. Yeah. They actually stay within the clippers, the rivets, so fortunately they're not like popping aggressively out, so I just lift and it holds in. Would you like it if I just flood it with UV light instead? We've got this one here that's reminding us that we were a failure. For those ones, you drill them out with about a 0.8mm bit. It won't fully drill out the hole, but it will allow you to... what will happen is the husk of the rivet will get stuck on the bit, and then you can just extract it out. If you use a 1mm or something like that, then the screws will not actually, there'll be no wall for them to cut a thread against. Well, the upside of the game has been here is the fact that I know that the YouTube algorithm must be slightly more in my favor today when they start turning up. Okay, I've got a grinder in here somewhere. Just making sure I'm not dragging the surface of the back screen against anything. Hey Chaz, how's it going? Hey, Travis is here. Hello, Travis. It's just unfortunate I don't have... I'm fairly sure I don't have a replacement keyboard for this one tonight. It's actually good to have a look at these rivets side on. You can see why you don't want to drill out the maximum size, because you can see they've got that ball, expanding ball type inside there. So what actually happens is when you screw the new screws in, they're generally only tapping into the top neck portion, and then when it gets down further, it's a bit too loose for them. So if you drill out at 1 mil, you'll typically drill out the neck, and then there's nothing for the new screws to tap into. Alright, so now we've got the difficult portion coming up, which is basically the... Oh, what's going on here? Anthony Harris? Do we have an Anthony Harris in chat? If so, thank you very much. Rodrigo, yeah, the screws generally don't come with the keyboards, but I've bought like 10,000 plus. I've bought a lot of screws. Hey, that's it. We missed that one. Now, unfortunately, these edge ones are certainly problematic, because I do like to grip the rivet head closer to the back of the pliers. I just have more control. Tip, you're kind of pushing your luck a little bit too much. Just like this. You see, when you try to lift them out, the issues that I'm suffering. As some of you know, normally I'm on 140. Ah, jeez. I'm here. I've lodged I wouldn't say a complaint, but I've lodged a issue with the provider, basically saying that even though I've got a potential sync rate at the node, I've got, I think what it is, at 120/52. That's my maximum possible rate. For some reason they are constricting my upstream to 22/600, and I just don't know what's going on. And the fact is, it's been staying at 22/600 no matter what I do. Like if I restart, there's no variation during the day, so I don't think it's a noise factor. As far as I can tell, the SNR looks pretty good. So I feel like they're actually deliberately constricting me at the moment. The network we have here is FTTN, fiber to the node, yeah, and from the node it's VDSL2, or no, it's not VDSL2, it's VDSL. Damn it, stop talking, Paul, you gotta focus on your rivets. You are a goner. Okay. Chip that off and we'll just have to drill it. Damn it, it's annoying. Hybrid DSL, is that what you call VDSL? Fortunately, my node is only about 250 meters from the house, so and it's well, there's probably only about a dozen people on it, so we're very fortunate. So I should not be getting congestion issues, and like I said, I certainly don't get noise issues. Damn it, I clipped that sucker. And like I said, it's rock steady on 22.6 for the upload. So I'm thinking there's some sort of throttling going on. Well, Prater, I did check the router, and I don't think the throttling, it doesn't seem to be coming from my side. It's coming from the node. Gee, that one almost didn't make it. Yeah, but Joseph, I'm on a 140. And like I said, for several years now, I've been on 140. Well, not several years, a couple of years now, I've been on 140. So them chugging me back down to 22.6, I'm like, okay, what are you guys up to? And I think they're probably hoping to try and shuffle me down and hope that I wouldn't notice. But of all the people to do it to, it probably wasn't the best of choice. Surging circuits, we're slowly losing our minds. Pulling teeth from a MacBook keyboard. These are the most awkward rivets to deal with because of the fact that, you know, they're right up flush against the the lip, which means you don't have a lot of, you can't get the back of the clippers on them, which is where it's safest generally to do it. But yeah, you got to work with what you got. Yeah, these recessed ones are, this is gonna suck. I don't really have an awl, or I don't really have anything that's suitably hard in order to knock that out. I can try an impact knockout just by doing this, and then you just give it a bit of a tap. And sometimes it can just roll the rivet out for you. And sometimes I can do sweet FA. You're doing the sweet FA motion on me, aren't you? Yeah, sweet FA. You can see all I'm going to do is knock the head off this thing. No, actually, might just have rotated enough. Probably lost my opportunity then. More tapping. More tappy tappy. Gotcha. Hi Derek, thank you very much. Have a good sleep now. Sleep is nice. Right, now we're going to do the drill outs for the ones that we botched up on. So for that, get myself a pin vise and a 0.8mm drill bit. We've got 0.8 here, 0.6, but yep, 0.8. Sorry. Being a little bit overly dramatic there. Now the hardest thing about using this pin vise is that it will not fit under the microscope. So I kind of have to fudge my way in this one. And the other hard thing is that most of the time when you've clipped the rivet head off, it's a surface that sort of goes up and peaks up and then goes down. So it's not something you can actually just straight away easily just put the drill bit on top and hope that you start drilling. It's going to run off to the side simply by virtue of the fact that it's man. So we're getting there, it's starting. Okay. I feel like this bit's a bit what do you call it? A bit blunt. Braden. Yeah, that is not cutting through like it normally should. I probably did something dumb and tried to drill some concrete or something. Fortunately, I do have another 0.8. Maybe this one will be sharper. Okay, at this point I can often just get my tweezers. No, I'm gonna need more. Okay, it's at the point now where it's starting to grab on the bit, which is what you want. So you can see you've drilled the core out, and yeah, now you can get the tweezers in there. There we go, cleared. I do have a Dremel. The only trouble is with the press is that you're not going to have the... How did I miss this sucker? How do we miss that? With a press you need a nice sort of stable platform to put it on, and we don't have that. Okay, we're going to have to do the tappy tappy. Yeah, that's not very energetic, Paul. Oh, crud. Took his head clean off. Alright, not a drama. Let's drill this one as well. Fortunately, because that one was sheared off rather than nipped off, it hopefully will be a little bit easier to get started. Yeah, sort of cutting in on the side there. Okay, we are at the point where it, once again, is ready to be picked out. In theory. No. I do wish I had a, what do you call it, a 0.9 mil drill bit. At this point, that is basically... Come on. There might be enough there for the screw to bite into, but hard to say. Alright, I'm pretty sure we've got one more around here that is needing of drill out. Spring-loaded punch. Yes, actually that would work very nicely. If you have a fine enough tip on it. What? How did we miss that? And there's another one staying just free and clear in the middle. Honestly, it's as bad as me finding bugs in my software. Yeah, just the number of times you think you're done, and then you're like, oh wait, no, there's that one, and it's a big fat catastrophic one. How did I not see that? Yeah, there's the other one. Right. You do occasionally get people who do like to check up on what your various material costs are and things like that for these repairs, and they will often sort of go, I saw that the keyboards are only costing like $40. Why are you charging me so much to replace the keyboard? And it's like, this is why, because it takes forever to get them out. It's not the cost of the materials, it's the cost of the time. It's basically, the best car analogy is that you can buy replacement valve stem seals for a car for about anything like $1 each. But I can guarantee you it's going to cost you a little more than that to replace those things. Okay, got that one out. It's like not like I go to the mechanic and say, well, I can get those valve stem seals for $1. Why are you charging me $1,000 to replace them? Alright, okay, now we've got the fun part. Do I actually have a replacement for the 1398 on hand, or is this just being a big fat time delay? I'll be back in a second, just going into the other room to have a check. Keyboards. Kappa 1398. Kappa. That sounds legit to me. Oh, better get a bunch of screws as well while I'm here. Unless they are in my other parts bin. Nope, they're not. 1, 2 screws. How many screws am I going to need? Probably 150. 3, 4, 5 screws. This won't take long. 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh crap, lost one. I'm going to have to restart again so I can count them properly. 1 screw, 2, and magically he comes in with a bag full of screws. Kind of curious to see if anyone would lose their mind then. Like, oh dear God, Paul, don't count the screws individually, just get the whole bag and come out and do it. Did you guys hear the cat? Loki was out there. I didn't hear him, but I presumed he might have made a sound. Okay. I'm just checking to see what the state of the chassis is, whether it needs to be cleaned or anything like that. Sometimes, depending on what's been spilled on them, you really do need to just basically take the whole chassis off and put it through the ultrasonic cleaner. But this one actually seems to be okay. So small pincers, for the counting the screws or for what? Yeah, be roomy. You know what? You know what really speeds up doing keyboard replacements is not doing them on YouTube. You do them on YouTube, and they always take twice as long because you're dealing with everybody's anxieties. Okay, what's going on there? Okay. Blues pinewood, no. We're only halfway there. Now we've got the fun part, and that is putting all the screws in. And by fun, I'm being very sarcastic, of course. Now there's two types of drivers I use for this. There's the PH000, which basically is the same as a PH00 in this particular instance with the Wero drivers, but it has an intentionally flattened tip, and that is often very useful because some of these screws, they aren't quite molded properly, and you kind of need the flat tip to get a better grip on them. But yeah, so this is 00 on the left, 000 on the right, and as you can see, they are essentially the same driver, but the 000 has had the top lopped off. Now I thought that was actually a manufacturing defect. It is in fact not. And in hindsight, I'm very glad that I've got one of them, because many a time now I have come to need that flat top. Okay, now the downside of this is that it has to be done without the use of the microscope. There is definitely a sort of pressure and torque technique for getting these damn things in properly, and for as many keyboards as I've done, I still find it occasionally is a bit tricky. You go through a phase where you start not driving them hard enough, or you get the angle wrong, things like that. One thing I do find that helps is if you back turn them initially for a couple of, just a couple of cycles. It helps with them chamfering the entrance of the screw hole. So you turn them back and then turn them forward. Does it really appear to be alcohol liquid damage, and did alcohol play a factor in the damages? Yes, it was actually IPA or metho or something like that. And what I think happened is it dislodged existing dirt, carried it, and then deposited it in inappropriate places. No, that one got effed up. So then we get the flat top one. So the flat top one lets you drive in with a bit more torque, because I think it's a better match, at least for the top portion of the Phillips recess on the screws. Unfortunately, if you mess that up and it skips, it will basically destroy that area, understandably, and you're then left with a screw that basically has to be removed. So, and you have to start again. I do try to subdivision the screws as I tighten it down. So like I try to start at the middle, split, 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 so on and so forth. That way you shouldn't, at least hopefully, end up with too many bulging sections due to all the what do you call it? All the bad alignment concentrating in one area. The downside of that method, though, is that it can be a little hard to keep track of what you've put into the board. Yeah, you've got to look around, look for those missing holes that, well, the holes aren't missing, the screws are missing. Oh, that one needs a flat top. Flat top usually seems to be needed in the middle areas where there's not enough pressure being applied back, or the what do you call it? The aluminium frame just doesn't have the strength to push against the driver. You don't want to push too hard because the screen is on the other side. This is a very long process and very boring, very mindless, but somebody's got to do it. For a while I didn't do replacements, I just told people to get a replacement deck, but at some point you decide, nah, stuff it, I guess I'll do them. And so here I am, nah, stuff it, guess I'm doing it. Hey Cecilia from Poland, do you think Daniel Ricciardo made a good thing moving to McLaren? Yeah, that's an interesting question, especially considering when you see that where Red Bull has gone since he left, and then also with Renault, sorry. I think McLaren is good, but ultimately he is a good driver, but I think that, like I said, he's just too nice. I mean, you look at where Max Verstappen's gotten now since Ricciardo's jumped off. I think Ricciardo works well with it if he's got a teammate that he can use. You know, if he's got someone that can work with the strategy with him, as opposed to being a teammate who wants the world champion as well. And that's a pretty rare thing to find with any real sort of sport at that level. But he does seem to be having a bit of strife with the McLaren, getting used to it or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not hugely big on Formula One. I do find it a little, it's like deviated away from what I did like about it originally. Yeah, it's become a little bit too constrained by the rules and politics and such. Maybe it always has been, maybe I've just become more sensitive to it. But I find myself preferring to watch Formula E or MotoGP, particularly MotoGP 3, which is kind of funny. They're itty bitty little motorbikes, but geez, they've got some good racing in them though. I know Formula E is not very popular with a lot of people, but I like it. It's got some good racing, plenty of passing. Yeah, it's pretty much normal to have the passing. It's got that interesting aspect of they've got the what do you call it? Boost zone. What do they call that? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, twice in the race they get 4 minutes of boost. Gives them about another, I think it's 20 kilowatts or something of power. And they have to use it. They can't just not use it. Some experts are saying McLaren is more optimized for Lando Norris kind of driving. That could well be. It's hard to say. I mean, it's like, is it optimized for Lando, or is Lando just happened to be a better match for it? And Daniel Ricciardo keeps trying to make it go his way, or maybe Daniel just doesn't resonate with that design. But yeah, I feel like he really does need to be in a team where the other driver is willing to be a teammate. I mean, there's no way you can be a teammate with Max Verstappen. I mean, that guy is a singular force in many ways. Yeah, he'll eat his own children if it gets him ahead. And you need that kind of personality in many ways. Do I like NASCAR? I'm probably more Indy than NASCAR. I do find it interesting that they've managed to make this massive race out of what is essentially an oval track racing. And we do have oval track dirt racing here in Australia, but I've never had any appeal to it. Actually, I'm more of a motorbike person, so corners are more my thing, with the odd nice long straight to really ring out the beast. Can't believe how fast those MotoGP bikes are, though. You know, I mean, they're putting, what is it, 340, 350 on some tracks now. That's obscene, considering that you're just this little person sitting on top of the machine with no real safety at that kind of speed. So Carlos said in an interview that McLaren moves around a lot under heavy braking, which most drivers hate. Daniel's weapon is dive bombing. Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, at the same time, when you look back at the events that have happened, you kind of feel like, damn, you just had some really bad luck there. Everything would go wrong at the wrong time. It's like when Haas started out really well. I think it was 2019, did they start? Yeah, and they had both drivers in a good position on the grid and everything like that, and then they just botched up with that one pit stop. I swear that, well, not two pit stops really. That whole botched up wheel pit stop situation, I think that just broke Haas at that point. At that point, Haas was dead. It killed their morale so badly. At least Grosjean got a honourable exit, as it were, because of his fireball crash. I mean, you can't blame the guy for going, right, that's it, I think it's time I quit racing, aka move to a different type of racing. Let's see, pro race drivers talking about driving electric race car. He was amazed that he could hear the tyres, which enable him. Yeah, there's certain elements, because we are mostly accustomed to hearing the engine, and we want to hear the engine. We like that sound. I mean, no one can deny that a screaming V10 is a beautiful sound, likewise a V12. But yeah, Formula E does bring out a whole new element of type of how you can race, and hearing the tyres, being able to hear them, definitely would give you an advantage. Andrew Hughes, you're just getting your R100 RS monoshock back on the road. Oh wow, what happened? Did it have a crash or just simply just in for general repairs? I was quite surprised at just how dominant BMW's offering is in the superbike market. Particularly things like if you look at the what do you call it? The TT series. I mean, if you wanna see the peak of insanity, then yeah, you just watch one of the Isle of Man TT races on board. It is ludicrous. I don't know how they do it. I mean, I've been a motorbike rider for many years, and it's just amazing to watch that onboard footage. I mean, there is a slight wide angle aspect to the cameras, which kind of makes it feel a little bit faster than what it really is. But you have to compensate that with the fact that as the rider, when you start going at those speeds, you really do get tunnel vision. And so, while it's not represented equally on screen in terms of situational awareness, you're probably ending up in a similar sort of place. Like for the rider, you're getting tunnel vision. For the viewer, you're getting overwhelmed by, okay, that's not good. That's not good. Why is that happening? What happened there? What have I missed? This is going to suck if I've got to take all these screws out. I feel like I've got a rivet in there. I feel like I've got something in there. It's not screwing down quite 100% right. Is it a rivet or is it just a slight misalignment somewhere? To be fair, if it was a rivet, it would really be pushing up a lot more aggressively. It's sitting flush, but it just feels slightly imperfect. I don't know if you can see it through the microscope. So this feels flush, and this feels ever so slightly proud. Honestly, I can't even tell edge on. If it is sitting on something, it's awfully small, whatever it is. Or is this the one? Oh, this is it. Yeah. I'd say... Now, if you look at the way the light bends around that unscrewed hole on the edge, compared to, say, this one, see that's a flat. You can actually get the ring around the recess where the screw is going to go, whereas this one here, it kind of, yeah, it's freaking marginal, that's for sure. For all I know, it could actually just be a burr on the chassis itself. If you look at the keys, it's not affecting them. They're all sitting proud. So, yeah. I think it's just me being very pedantic about it. Yeah, Travis Travis jumps in on that one. Yeah, I would say I'm being very pedantic about it, but I feel like I owe it to the client to be pedantic and at least double check that what I'm doing is right and that I'm not leaving them with something really dumb. We'll contact the PCB ZX. We have this that goes over it, so, and the PCB actually sits proud slightly. It's not protruding beyond what I would consider to be a tolerance that would cause issues. Intolerance? Whatever. Now see, I've got another one over here. Interesting, they're actually very similar points. I've got one here and one here, so I think it actually might be a chassis casting issue. Well, not even an issue, just a slight rise in it or something. It's definitely present on both sides. And it's balanced. It's there and there, and then, yeah, I'd say it's actually the casting thing. Gonzalo, how do you remove rivets? I haven't seen yours. Do you mean the ones that are stuck after you've removed the keyboard, or what? And are you comparing to me using the side clippers, or are you thinking of when I'm using the drill for the ones that I've accidentally taken the heads off? These things matter. Oh, you use a screwdriver as in you tap or flick from the side, do you? You just like jam the screwdriver edge against the edge of the rivet and... Ah, damn, do not do that, Paul. Sorry, I've got legacy issues of being a squash player. You can send me the video. Well, we'll have a look. Sometimes too, it comes down to... Yeah, you see, exactly the same thing happens there and there. Of course, there is the possibility that there's a piece of junk on both locations. That would be truly hilarious. By the way, I've finished doing the subdividing sort of process, and now I'm mostly just scanning up. It'd be nice to have an auto loader driver on this. Kind of like when you're doing, when you're fixing plaster to walls or ceilings, and you have those drill guns, screw guns, and they basically have a self-loading cassette full of screws. And so you just walk along and you just go beep, 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 and that's it. And they're all done to the correct depth, to the correct torque, whatever. And you don't have to go along and individually put the screws on. Alright, you're being difficult, little SAB. Time to go all flathead on you. Hey Andre, look. Hey Gonzalo, you might want to put that actually into the comments when this video is done, because I'm going to probably lose that on chat. Gonzalo, you're the chap that dropped the 2-ball stencil hold technique, weren't you? The one that I use when I'm doing the SMC wet balling reball system. Yeah, thought so. Just wanted to double check. Didn't want to go thinking you were someone that you weren't. I still get plenty of people trying to tell me that I should be using paste. for the SMCs. And it's like, I used to use paste and now I've converted to using balls because I prefer to. There's a thing called personal human preference, and the difference between either technique is up to the person. I think that's the infuriating thing about almost everything you do in life, is you'll get people come up to you and say, you really shouldn't be doing it that way, you should be doing it this way because it's my way and it's better. And it's like, have you ever thought that maybe I've tried that way and a few other ways because I'm not fixated on one way, and then I've decided which one suits me best? Did you ever think that? Did you? Did you? Did you? Instead you just want to come in here and swish your big thing around. Go, ooh, look at me, look at my fancy technique. Anyway, sorry, yeah, bit of rage rising up there. Prefer reballing them manually without stencil. Now, see, Pelnov, on the other hand, is just crazy. SMCing, reballing without a stencil, by hand, that's, okay, fine if you do it for relaxation, kind of like people do crossword puzzles or Sudoku, whatever it is. But, I wouldn't want to be doing SMCs. Not that many balls. By hand. Good practice, though. I'll grant you that. Paul almost got Lewis in. Yeah. I don't think I could ever go full Lewis. I wonder if Robert Downey Jr. could go full Lewis. Maybe there'll be a movie about Lewis at one point. Hey, NE555. Yeah, it is rather late of me. I kind of fell asleep after dinner and woke up and went, crap, I've got to get jobs done. I'll probably will be awake till around about 4 because I've got coding to do after this. So what is it now? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I just want to get this done. I've done quite a few jobs today, and I still am not catching up. I'm starting to turn away quite a few jobs. Anything that's looking like it's going to cause me some drama, I'm just turning away at the moment. Ach, niemand. Have some catnip, that'd be nice. We're getting there, we're getting there. My goodness, this is a painful process. I should have just hot glued the whole thing in. Let's see, Rodrigo, at least have new jobs coming in, had weeks of nothing. That's actually really scary. Yes, I can appreciate that. And that is why I have, essentially I have 3 or 4 different kinds of business here. I have the MacBook repairs, I have Flexboard View, I have the iPhone, screen replacements and that sort of thing, and then I have general PC repairs for the locals here. So between those 4 types of work, I managed to keep a relatively steady income. Flexboard View has kind of dropped off a little bit, mostly because people are suffering shock and awe right now due to the cost change. It's now $179 US. Some people are just like, they came up to the web store all eager to get their license, and they saw the new price and went, ah, and they've probably gone and pirated it now. But at least if they're pirating it, they're still using my software. Oh yes, and I entertain. Of course, yes. Okay, we'll call that a fifth. We'll say YouTube income maybe. It's not really an income. It's barely a supplement. Alright, so we've gone through one bag and we're still got a few to go. Hey James. Okay, hopefully that should be enough. Hey Micromage. You've been busy today? Normally sort of see you join in a bit earlier. I suspect, you know, you've got jobs to do. I was having more pointless debates on forums today about electric vehicles, the national network, things like that, power network. Like one person said that it's projected that the favorite thing they like to say is the network can't handle electric vehicles because it's going to double in power consumption overnight, and we're not going to have enough power to charge the vehicles. And so, yeah, it doesn't happen like that. So we don't just instantaneously, it's not like a quantum leap or something, where today we're using, say, I don't know, half a terawatt a day, and tomorrow we're using 6 terawatts a day. It just doesn't go like that. So we all just incrementally increase on these things. The other thing is that we actually save, it's not as severe a jump as what it seems, because you got to realize that you are no longer then using electricity to refine the fuel for that vehicle, which is I think around about 5 or 6 kilowatt hour per litre of petrol refined. So that load is no longer on the network. And with regards to houses having home storage, well, that doesn't actually increase the overall network consumption. It just simply allows you, actually, funnily enough, to make things better for the network, because you can, you can already have your local reserve. So if the network is feeling a bit saggy, then you can just draw from your home battery rather than demanding that the network supplies. So it's actually quite advantageous to the stability of the network to have things like home storage, which couples in also with the fact if you can have EV to network connectivity, so that your car, you can say maybe set aside 20% of the battery to be used for connection to the network. Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of people scared, but I think most of the time it's more of an ideological hatred than genuine fear. Brother in South Australia says it looks like they're going to be charged $70 per annum if they feed their excess generation to the grid. Yeah, you see, now that's the AMEO, was it? AMEO, and the government playing silly buggers to try and... They're just doing everything that they can to really stop us moving towards a better networks. And I expect nothing less, of course, with the current political climate. And we've got our politicians take lumps of coal into Parliament, like little pets or something. The thing is, they're not going to change anything. It's still going that way. So they're basically just trying to hold back the inevitable. Is there any possibility of a second Casey Stoner sort of biker? Depends, silly. I mean, there's Jack Miller at the moment. He's not really a Casey Stoner. I actually don't know how to I don't know how to compartmentalize Jack Miller. He's kind of got a Wayne Gardner type brashness, and he's seems to be fairly skilled, but I don't think he'll ever really be like Mick Doohan. For me, is pretty much the epitome of a robot, not a robotic rider, but sort of a rider that really makes you appreciate his skill. He was just so very quiet about how he did his things, after all his injuries and everything like that, and he just still went out there and dominated. Hot Wheels, see this exact problem here in Australia. Oh, well, yeah, I am in Australia. No point dealing with common sense. Yeah, exactly. There's no point dealing with it. Joseph King, you got a battery a couple of months ago and they stopped taking your extra. See, these sort of rules, it's really frustrating because you know that they're doing it to be difficult. I mean, there can be some technical reasons behind it, but realistically, actually having batteries attached to the network makes a lot more sense than not. Particularly with a wider distribution, because instead of them having to channel power in over the greater network, they can, for your neighbor, then you can supply it. It's the same for electronics design. If you want your electronics to work stably, you load up around all the devices that you know are going to consume power with capacitors, like just decoupling capacitors. Because if you depend on that one central battery or power connector that you've got coming into the machine, and you have no capacitors or no localized storage, it's going to run like hell. It's going to be really difficult, and you're going to have to increase the overall compliance ability of your main power supply in order to be able to cope with the demands of all these smaller ones. Plus, most of the time, you won't even get good quality power at the location when required, simply because of the inherent resistances and impedances encountered. So I don't know. It's from what I can tell, it's mostly ideological driven. I'd say most of the people against it probably aren't legitimately against these things, but maybe they have substantial investments in existing assets that will become stranded once the network sort of switches over. For me, having solar is an excellent thing to do because obviously, I work during the day, we've got air conditioners that need to be fed. So anything I generate, particularly in summer, will most likely be utilized in-house. And then, because I work at night as well, if I have a battery, then that's going to help again. So it's distinctly in my favour to get both battery and solar. If it wasn't financially painful, I would probably actually get battery first before I got solar. And I am looking for my scraper. Can't find my scraper. Great. Sonia, I don't like the way electric cars are currently designed, except for the excellent horsepower. Sonia, which way don't you? What's your concern with the EV designs? Is it concerns or just personal taste? And that's, I guess, one thing that we should check first. Solar's pretty naff in the UK. Yeah, that's the other thing that's kind of crazy, is that you have these countries like Germany, these countries that don't have a fantastic solar illuminance, as it were, forget the proper term that they use. And they're adopting solar left, right and centre. And then you have Australia, which is pretty much one of the best places in the world to gather solar energy. And it's like everybody's going, nope, stupid solar, no good, yeah. And it's just strange. which makes me, like I said, believe more and more that it is more financially driven from the investor perspective, as the current investor perspective, as in, look, well, I've got $1 million in non-renewable assets, and I kind of want to be able to flog them off to someone else before they become stranded. So can you guys shut up about how great solar is so that I can sell this off to some other sucker? Any structural damage causes battery fire, dangerous, hard to extinguish without proper chemicals. Well, yeah, there is that issue. I agree. Yeah, we don't want to be all driving around in Ford Pintos. Mind you, a lot of the damage issue, the fire type thing, tends to come. A lot of that fear sort of comes from the older days of lithium polymer soft packs, like in model aircraft around about the early 2000s and things like that. You look at one of those packs wrong and they're like, pff, puff up and then psh, fire. These days the new chemistries are a lot more stable. I realise the Chevy Bolts are going up in flames at the moment. That seems like they've got a problem in their software with actually overcharging the battery. Something's not going right there, or they're balancing it wrong. Someone's done something wrong there. But I would say that the new style of Tesla packs, the cells, the 4680s? I can't remember anyway. I would say, though, that configuration mechanically, along with a reasonably recent electrolyte type combination, probably very resistant to catching on fire. Arnold G, the problem with the lithium packs, if you do have one that is gonna go crazy on you, is that there's pretty much nothing that you can encase them with other than sand that will be able to prevent them from liberating their own oxygen and keeping themselves going. At least not without a colossal weight penalty and things like that. Overall, I think in terms of accidents and such, I think EVs currently have a ignition rate I think it's around about 1/10 or 1/3 of internal combustion cars. So like in an accident, it seems to be petrol, diesel car, probably petrol, ignite 3 times more frequently than what electric vehicles will. There is, of course, the problem of extinguishing the fire once it does get started is a bit of a pain, but in some ways, we've got to remember also there was big problems with the move to magnesium parts in ICEs. When magnesium parts started becoming common on cars, we would have these magnesium fires breaking out that they couldn't put out properly, and you'd end up with these explosions occurring when the firefighters are trying to put the vehicle out. So they're heading mostly to plastic builds all the way to the acceleration, probably brake pedals, including linkages. No direct hard linkage to stop. I guess, I can understand that. It is nice to have it's nice psychologically to have a direct link to stoppage, I agree. Perhaps they can resolve that by having a secondary failsafe, so it's a combination fly-by-wire versus end mechanical failsafe. It is tricky, because typically when you do replace a mechanical system with an electronic system, your failure rate generally drops by a magnitude or so, but I do get what you're saying. It's kind of like, I know rationally that flying is safer than driving, yet I will most likely opt to drive than fly if I have to go somewhere. Well, magnesium's been around in cars for a fair bit as it is, not only just on the wheels, but the engine blocks, things like that. I think it's since about the late 90s or something like that, it's become a bit of a problem. So you get these firefighters going out, try and put out the fire, and it burns, white hot, as you know. And they initially were trying to put them out, and they would just basically explode because of whatever was going on with the fire chemicals. At least, that's an awareness thing that can be worked on, and I've just probably... Did I just botch that up and use the wrong fold technique there? Probably did. I blame Sonia. Too busy chatting to her. Okay, let's see if this will boot with the keyboard. So yeah, definitely, anytime you shift to a new technology, there are going to be issues. There are going to be things you have to resolve. And I suppose what you have to do is decide, overall, are we better off or are we worse off? And if you're worse off, then you sort of go, well, maybe we just sort of like sit on this for a little bit longer, wait for the technology to get better, or something like that. Overall, I feel like EVs and the general electrification of most things in terms of energy consumption and efficiency is putting us in a superior position. Oh, we got a 3. Oh no, that was component failure in such a heavy electronic throw will be the new MacBooks. Yeah, the repairability definitely is an issue. I don't really have much to say about that. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you compare the computers we have now to the computers of the 1980s. Generally, the computers we have now have easily 100, maybe 1,000 times more parts in terms of, if you consider the individual components on the dies of the chips. But our failure rate is generally dropping. I mean, how many millions of chips, how many millions of gates are in the modern day CPU? And yet they're generally more reliable than the old ones. Generally, there are old ones that are very durable, but I'm talking about the overall consumer scenario. Could always go back to valves. Micromage, yeah, I mean, I'll do SMD any day. Pin through drove me absolutely freaking insane. It's unreliable. And it has lots of issues with it. It's slow to build, things like that. So yeah, I'll take I'll take surface mount any day. I know a lot of people don't like surface mount because it's fiddlier in the fact that you need different equipment. But in terms of reliability, absolutely, I'll take surface mount every day. Vegemart's good adhesive. At the end, the statistics will differentiate between, you hope anyway, differentiate between what ultimately ends up perhaps being an emotional concern versus an actual concern. Unfortunately, we kind of have to do the time to find out. Some things you just can't find out until you... Okay, I can't work out if that's jammed in enough. It just does not... That doesn't feel like it's in enough. $7.5 litre F250. Yes, that's still... that's going to be quite a impressive amount of... Yeah, I guess it's relative. Like, if you're just puttering around town, then relative to another vehicle, that's going to be awful in terms of emissions versus distance. But if you're hauling a full load, then, yeah, I mean, it's going to be superior in many ways. Okay, so keyboard's connected. Let's try it for test. Hopefully we can get our Okay, so we didn't blow up this time. It may be that the keyboard controller is... Oh no, it did work. That worked. Great. Okay, so we are fixed. Yep. Hot Wheels 98, 99, a vehicle accident in towns involving a magnesium fire. By the time they managed to get the driver's body out of the wreck... Oh, really? I didn't know about that one. I was over in South Africa at the time. I didn't know about that particular event in Townsville. Yeah, that's scary stuff. That's got to be really rough as a first responder. You know, the amount of things that you must have to witness. It's. I would not like to be a first responder. That's got to mess with your head so much. Is Marmite same as Vegemite? No. Marmite's got a rounder sort of flavor profile, whereas Vegemite is extremely... What's the word I would use for Vegemite? Astringent, maybe? I don't know. Vegemite is generally sharper than Marmite. Marmite's, yeah, a rounder sort of thing. The only trouble I have with the modern Marmite is that it's not firm like Vegemite. I really do much prefer my Marmite when it's solid, like Vegemite, because when it comes to smearing Marmite out on toast or anything like that, with the new syrup type Marmite they have, too much gets into the pores of the bread. You know, basically you're trying to just do a nice thin layer so you can get that beautiful flavor profile, and you end up with 5 or 6 times more than you want on there, and it just ruins it. What was South Africa like? It was an experience. That's the best way I can say it. I'm very glad I went there. I am thankful that I returned when I did. I was there for quite a few years, and it was definitely quite an enlightenment, because you go there and you see the extreme disparity between the have and the have-nots. And unfortunately, those disparities still very much persist to this day. And I don't see things improving anytime soon. And I see Zuma got thrown in jail, but that's probably caused more drama than before. Okay, keyboard fundamental test is working. Okay, speakers working. Obviously there's no speakers though, because I haven't plugged them in. Function keys seem to be up and running. So yeah, we're fixed on this, and we fixed up that Thunderbolt issue that was there with the corrosion. But the keyboard's working, so I'm thankful for that. After all those screws. Okay, since we don't have the fans running or anything like this, I'm just going to shut this down, and I'll finish the full assembly tomorrow. Alright, that's it for me for tonight. I've probably got an hour of coding to go do, and then that'll be it for the night. So I will catch you all later. Thank you very much for sticking around. It wasn't really the most interesting repair. This is unfortunately the nature of keyboard replacements, is that it's a lot of time, but it's nothing really technically interesting. But I appreciate that you all stuck around, and I will see you maybe tomorrow. We'll see how we go. Till then, take care. I'll see you later.